In this video, we're going to have a look at an introduction to the trigonometric ratios. So by the end of the video, hopefully you can identify the correct trigonometric ratio to be used based on the information provided. So before we have a look at the three ratios we use in trigonometry, let's have a look at how do we label the triangle. Now this will be different to how we labeled the triangle when we looked at Pythagoras theory. So forget about the A, B, and C side for Pythagoras theory and focus on how we label it for problems or questions involving trigonometry. So we have a right angle triangle, and in that right angle triangle, we have our hypotenuse. Now, our hypotenuse is always going to be the side opposite our right angle. So if you can find the right angle, look at the side opposite, that is going to be your hypotenuse. Now, when we are working with trigonometry, you will have an angle that is specified. And that angle will not be the same angle in every question. So one of the other two angles, the non-right angle triangle, will be specified. You need to identify the specified angle to be able to label the other two sides. So the other two sides we're going to label as either opposite or adjacent. And when we talk about opposite or adjacent, we are referring to adjacent in relation to the specified angle or opposite in relation to the specified angle. So we're talking about opposite in relation to the specified angle. We look at the angle and then we look at the line that is opposite. So starting at the specified angle, the side of the triangle that is opposite is going to be the opposite side, and we label it opposite for our trigonometry. Then the angle or the line that is next to the specified angle, so it runs adjacent to it, is going to be the adjacent side. So when we're working with trigonometry, we label our sides hypotenuse, opposite, and adjacent, and it's in relation to the specified angle. So the hypotenuse is always going to be the same, but then it's going to be the opposite side in relation to the specified angle, and the adjacent side in relation to the specified angle. So in our first triangle, our specified angle was down the bottom. So having a look at the second triangle, this time our hypotenuse is going to be the same because it is always opposite the right angle, but our specified angle is going to be up the top. So I'm now looking at for my opposite and adjacent side in relation to that specified angle. So looking at the specified angle, opposite that angle is going to be my opposite side, and adjacent to that angle, so the line running up against next to it, is going to be my adjacent side. So you can see when the specified angle moves, the opposite and adjacent sides switch around. So that's why it's very important to make sure that we're looking at the specified angle before we determine what is the opposite side and what is the adjacent side. So that is how we label the triangle when we're working with trigonometry. So now let's have a look at the trigonometric ratios. And there's three ratios that we use, sine, cos, and tan. So when we're looking at sine, it is the opposite side over the hypotenuse side. When we're looking at cos, it is adjacent over hypotenuse. And when we're looking at tan, it is opposite over adjacent. So some people use SOHCAHTOA as a way of remembering. So SOHCAHTOA. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse. Cos adjacent over hypotenuse. Tan opposite over adjacent. But they are the three ratios that we use in trigonometry. Which one we use will be dependent on the information you have in the question. So if you've got an angle and you know what the opposite side is, and you're trying to find the hypotenuse side, you can use sine. If you've got an angle and you know the adjacent side and you're trying to find the opposite side, you can use tan. So depending on the information you have will be whether you're using sine, cos, or tan. All right, so let's have a look at an example of writing trigonometric ratios using those formulas. So for the triangle shown, write the rule for sine, cos, and tan of the angle given. So to do that, our first step is going to be to label the sides. Before I can label the sides, I need to identify my specified angle. So now that I have my specified angle, I can go ahead and label the opposite side. So the opposite to that angle is going to be my opposite side. The side next to my angle is going to be the adjacent side. And then my third side, opposite the right angle, is going to be my hypotenuse side. So now that I've labeled the sides of the triangle, I can go ahead and write my ratios for sine, cos, and tan. So step 2 is going to be to write the formula. Step 3, substitute in the values from the question into that formula. So starting off with sine is opposite over hypotenuse. So looking at my values, opposite side is A, my hypotenuse side is C. So sine of the angle is going to equal to A over C. So going back now for cos, writing the formula, cos equals adjacent over hypotenuse. My adjacent side is going to be B, my hypotenuse side is C. So cos of an angle is equal to B over C. And for my last ratio, I have got tan. So tan of an angle is equal to opposite over adjacent. So my opposite side is A, my adjacent side is B. So tan of an angle is equal to A over B. So that's some examples of how do we use the trigonometric ratios and apply it to a question to write the ratio for each of sine, cos, and tan.